So you know what, when I was invited for this talk, uh, there was something that was sort of coming to my mind and I said, I love the topic, because most of the things that have happened in my life is this line, it's not rocket science. So, but I was contemplating while coming here because I thought on a weekday afternoon, just in the Valentine week, how many people are actually going to turn up to listen to a gyan? But I'm happy that I can see a lot of faces and I can reciprocate a lot of energy. So now I have a responsibility on my shoulders. So for the next 15 minutes, what we're going to do is, I'll try and not give you gyan. So what I'm going to talk about are actually my life stories. I'm being a little greedy here because once this talk was given to me, I thought this is the perfect moment for me to relive all my school days, all my college days, all the days that I spent through all these years. So like a filmmaker, I think I should begin my talk with a disclaimer. And the disclaimer is the credibility of my gyan today is not based on any management principle, it's not based on anything that I've learned throughout the years. It's only based on the stories that are mine, completely mine. You know what? They say that success validates effort, but failures teach the best. I think this one line runs throughout my life. I have done various works throughout my life, throughout my career, and all of them is what I'm going to talk to you about. So, as we speak, I think technology has to do this. So my slide won't work, but I'll try. So, just wait. So, okay, I come here, my story. So, I will take you about 30 years back, 3 decades. Most of you might not have even been born at that time and certainly feel really old. But this is my family. We are a family of 5. I have a younger brother. I have a sister who's 1 year older to me. My father is a chartered accountant. I belong to a middle-class family. I started living in Malvinagar. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this word, Malvinagar. It is a small city, it's a small town in the heart of Delhi, South Delhi. That's where I used to live, very close to my school, which was APJ Sheikh Sarai. You know what? Why I share this with you is because in the times when we have grown up, we have literally lived in a world of no technology. And when I say that, what I mean to say is that at that point of time, the only entertainment that we had was participating in everything that was happening in our own house. So be it cooking, be it cleaning, be it repairs, be it any part of the thing that happened in our households, our parents, they made us a part of everything. Why I talk to you about this is because subconsciously what you do is, whatever you're doing in the times when you're growing up, stays with you in your subconscious mind. And what I didn't know, which I realize now, is living in that era was actually if some MBA graduate had to call it, would actually call it resource crunch. But for us, it was a daily life. And what it did teach us was a lot of resilience. That resilience actually comes to your use when you start working. So in my life at that point of time, we participated virtually in everything that our house has to offer. This resilience actually came to my use, when I started my work career. So my slide says observe and absorb. I mean, these are 2 words which are very common, which are very normally used. But why I use as an emphasis here is these 2 words will actually take you far, because most of the things that I've done in my life has been out of the things that I've absorbed around me, things that you observe. So while in your college, in your respective courses, whatever you're doing, keep a lookout, keep an open mind. Even if you're learning a certain subject, you should always have conversations, you should always have exchanges that you do, always keep an open eye on things that happen around you. Now, when I move forward, after my, from Malvinagar, I did my schooling from APJ Sheikh Sarai. 20 years back when I started my school, I was a very mediocre student. I think most of the people who come to give talks here say that. But I was interested in everything that happened in the school but studies. I was a very good sportsman. I was the sports captain of my school. I did NCC pretty seriously. I wanted to go to actually an NDA after my school, I was into dramatics, but studies was something that I always used to shy away from. So in my schooling days, the first opportunity that I got in 11th grade to choose my subjects, I grabbed it. And I didn't take maths because that was one subject I just didn't want to do. What it gave me was a lot of freedom because I took physical education as a subject. And because I was good at sports, I used to participate in a lot of sporting activities. I won a lot of medals for my school. And I was doing what I actually chose because that was the first sense of freedom that I got because I chose the subject that I wanted to. And I studied commerce in my school and went to TEDxMithibaiCollege, did my BCom. Was very happy representing my school and my college in various events, various sporting activities. But as a natural progression, when you move ahead, when you do a BCom, I did my MBA. I enrolled for an MBA course. And guess what? The same maths that I had left 3 years back, I had no idea about, came right in front of my eyes. And wow, I said, okay. But thanks to the resilience that we had in our growing up years that we subconsciously absorbed and taking up challenges, I actually cleared my MBA with flying colors. Now you would be thinking, why am I talking about a subject? Why am I talking about maths as a subject? Choosing a subject, not choosing a subject, how does it make sense? What I want to put forth here is, for me as a student, at that point of time, maths was as intimidating as anything could have been for a student at that time. But because of the persistence and the doggedness, we cleared maths at that particular point of time. So my emphasis is not really on the subject, but my emphasis is on these two words that I'm using here, which are very relevant to me in the later part of my career. From the school, I went to TEDxMithibaiCollege. I told you I did my MBA. After my MBA, interestingly, when I started my career, actually I've been working all through my college days. My father is a chartered accountant, I told you. I used to go to his office, I used to assist him in his work. But when I actually started my career, I started from insurance. Now just to give you a little background, insurance is not the rosiest of the careers you would want to start your career with. And I started my career as an insurance consultant. Mind you, consultant is a better word that they used at that time for a life insurance agent. When I started in insurance in year 2000, at that time the only company that was doing insurance was the LIC, was the Life Insurance Corporation of India. And the private players was just sort of coming in, and the first job that I got was to sell insurance. Now, if you thought that insurance actually did not teach me anything about filmmaking or media, you're wrong here. Everything that I learned during my insurance days are actually the things that I have taken forward and have helped me in everything that I did ever after. So, as an insurance consultant, our job was to sell insurance. Now, it was one of the most difficult, by far it is one of the most difficult product to even solicit or sell today. But at that point of time, anybody you would go actually for insurance advice would start running away from you. So it became really difficult to actually make everybody understand the importance of insurance. So what I did was, it was a time for me to do something which is innovative and new. So I thought, why not talk about insurance not as a morbid subject of death, but as a subject of celebration. So we thought of an idea, and I thought that why not I start selling dreams and ideas. And we started bringing events into insurance. So what I used to do was, we used to put up a stall and said, I'm not going to run after the clients now. I will make an environment where people come to us, and we started talking about child's dream. We would make the children dress up in their future careers. They would happily walk into the stall, get themselves clicked like a cricketer or a star or an astronaut, take that picture back home, and their parents would be taking the advice how to fulfill that career. This entire process of insurance was new at that point of time. It was never used before. And it got me a lot of success in my career of insurance. Now, Due to that, for the next 15 years of my career as an insurance consultant, year on year I qualified as a $1 million roundtable conference which happens in the US. It's the premier organization for financial consultants. And year on year I qualified for that and became the most celebrated financial consultant for my company HDFC Life. Now, why insurance? What did it teach me? See, the most important learnings of my life are because of insurance. So if you look at it, the first thing that it taught me was innovation, which I told you that, once you're in a crunch, there's a product to be sold which nobody wants to buy, there's something that you want to do which nobody is ready to accept, the first thing you do is innovate. So I did it by doing this particular activity. It made me face rejection. The most important bit, I say as an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, it gives me a lot of freedom to do what I want, but what I do feel is a lot of youngsters today, a lot of people are still very scared of actually facing rejection. I feel as a consultant in my life, insurance has taught me how to face rejection. I used to make calls. There was a list of database, we used to make calls, fix up an appointment, go to meet the client, and a lot of times you would face rejection. You would get a call put on your face. When I meet a lot of youngsters, I say, for some part of your career, you should actually make telecalls because that is something that will actually teach you how to face rejection and then go back again. So it taught me how to face rejection. It taught me how to understand the other side of the story because when you're a consultant, when you're going to advise somebody on something, then there's the other side to every story that you actually understand. So it taught me that. It taught me how to set targets. Because when you're into sales, there are certain targets that you have to meet. So that era of my life, it taught me how to set targets. As an entrepreneur, setting targets becomes very important because when you're in a job, when you do a certain thing, setting targets are easier. But when you do your own job, getting up every morning, telling yourself what to do, setting your own targets and then completing them becomes a different ballgame altogether. Setting targets, achieving goals and celebrating victories. I can tell you for those of you who may be thinking of ever taking life insurance as a profession, I have traveled across the globe just because of this business. I have traveled, seen the world just because of life insurance. So in a way, from actually hating numbers, hating maths, to actually becoming the most celebrated financial consultant for my company has been quite a journey, but I have enjoyed it. And it has taught me almost everything that I did for the rest of my life. I'll be taking you to the other part of my career. But before that, I want to tell you something. There's one very important thing that insurance business taught me, which was a no is not never. I think this is a very important factor because when we used to actually do client calls, a lot of times clients would not be interested in actually knowing what you're talking to them. They would actually buzz you off by saying, we'll talk about it next month, next to next month, 6 months later, 1 year later. And I want to share this because this thing is very close to my heart. I have about 20 years of physical diaries with me, still available, because a no for me meant no on that particular day. But then I would call that particular gentleman after 6 months, after 1 year, after 2 years. What it did was, the first call that I made to him was like a stranger. The second call had some element of relationship into it. And the third call, and that's how the sales were closed. And I did pretty well in insurance. Another thing that I've never done in my life is stop exploring. I always explore new horizons. And as an entrepreneur, I do get that liberty to do that. In year 2016, I started managing my brother's work. He's a known personality on Indian television. Manish Paul, he's a big host. And at that point of time, the task was challenging because, with all my marketing experience, I was coming to manage an already existing brand. But we did a lot of new things with Manish during the due course. In 2016, he hosts a very important and a very big show on National Geographic, known as Science of Stupid. Now, it's a very popular show where, you have the scientific facts actually combined together with some of the bloopers. That's the show we're talking about. Interestingly, when I actually went to pitch for Manish into a channel, National Geographic, I was sort of discussing the show, and I said, I want to produce this show. And the channel said, okay, do you have any experience of producing a show? I said, no. Have you ever produced a show? I said, no, but I can do it. So one biggest revelation at that point of time for me was, because there are some calls that you take as an entrepreneur which are very spur of the moment. And at that point of time, I proposed to the channel to produce this particular show. Because of my marketing experience, I did sort of get the opportunity to produce this show. And I want to tell you something, that the biggest revelation was, you just have to say, I can do it. And rest of the things actually follow. It's not really about what you're going to do, how you're going to do. It's actually about the same set of skills and values that you use with the grit, but the context changes. So in this case, the context was actually producing a show. So from coming from an insurance background to producing my first show was Science of Stupid for National Geographic. First particular season was a little jittery because I was sort of in the process of learning a lot of things which I did not know about production. But the good part is that what I mentioned to you about right in the beginning, which is observe and absorb, was something that actually came to my use here, because in my first season, I absorbed a lot and I learned a lot on set while working for this particular show. And then I have produced almost 7 seasons of this show. Another show that I do for National Geographic is Animals Gone Wild, Javed Jafri. This was again a very interesting show. It's an Indian take on the foreign property Animals Gone Wild. I was lucky to have Javed as one of the hosts for the show because he made it easy, possible, and add a lot of creativity into the show. So to sum it up, from insurance to coming to production has been quite a different, quite a contrary, but a very entertaining journey for me. And the principles that I've used are what I spoke to you about. There's something very interesting happened while I was producing Animals Gone Wild was, I got the taste of being a producer. And while you get a taste of being a producer, I wanted to produce some of my own content and stuff. I started making short films. At that point of time, I made 2 short films, which were, the short films that I made actually were entirely on my own mobile camera. And what happened was that those films got selected into festivals. And my film actually got selected into a Vancouver Film Festival. The whole process of the film going to a festival sort of caught my attention. And I said, this is a great validation process. Whatever you may do, whatever you may study, absorb and observe from your surroundings, learn while you're on the job, because there's absolutely nothing that you guys cannot do. Thank you very much.